This is for the creators. Creative culture.
Creative culture. Back
Creative
to
culture.
another episode.
We're back.
I actually really love these episodes because
Me too.
It gives me time to just chat. Not that I'm chatting a whole lot of nothing, but it's just good to just have these discussions and
Little
and
check-ins.
talk about things and like the feedback from listeners saying, yes, I was feeling that topic and
Yeah.
like
No,
that,
that's been really cool. Getting good feedback on these episodes. So glad you're liking it. So
yeah, and also like I think because we explored so many different angles, and not that we disagree, but you don't always agree with what I'm saying, or you view it from a different perspective.
Mm.
Then it helps people to think about things slightly differently as well. So
For sure.
I think
For
that's
sure.
really, really effective.
Really effective.
There's a lot going on this week, a lot of creativity.
Yes. And I've just
So how
remembered
did you go on?
we had a really good episode last week with Ibrahim and
What?
Jide from Guap Mags, the Guap Mag, the founders of Guap Mag. And we had a really cool conversation about how they come up and how they founded that video magazine and everything they're doing for the community. It was brilliant. What was your main takeaway from that?
I think my main takeaway was perseverance and being persistent from like starting out doing little African raves at university, and some of them didn't necessarily go that well, but just still holding through with it and holding through your vision, even when people are saying to you like, mate, maybe you should allow that, and just keep going anyway, because you just never know what's going to come out of it. And look at what they've created. They've created something that's so important for the culture and so innovative as well. So that was really the main takeaway for me. Just keep going, be persistent.
Absolutely. For me, I think the importance of like networking sideways and trusting in the potential and the ability of your peers, even if they haven't blown up yet. It's so easy as a creative to, look for the next step up and constantly try and find, the person that can basically help you get to that next stage. And I think what they made clear is that, look left and right. Look at people that are kind of around you and are pursuing similar things and are on similar levels. You can collaborate. Over time, you might all blow together, and you can help each other blow. So, yeah, I think that was really cool. And all the content that they've done, they've really spotted people early and given them their first chance. Like her, they gave her first cover, which is
it's really dope.
That's crazy. That's such a coup.
And look, did she win a Grammy or was she just nominated?
I think she won. I think she won a couple. That's what I'm saying, and that wasn't even too long ago, in the grand scheme of things. So, yeah, definitely looking at who's around you and giving back to the community as well.
I think it really ties in with the ethos of our podcast as well, especially in season 1, where we spent a lot of time spotlighting people who you wouldn't necessarily know about because they're not quote unquote famous, but you are going to hear about them. Because literally, when I look at all of the people who we featured on the Spotlight episodes, I'm so proud. Like, I literally feel like they're my children because they're all doing amazing things. Like, just when you scroll through Instagram, like every day they're all popping up doing something major. So it's really inspiring, and it's just really so important to not just, it's what that motivational video that I posted on our page, Jill Scott, and she was talking about how important it is to just don't pretend that you're more than you are. Sometimes you can just be the most creative person in the room. Even if you're just starting out, you don't have to put on this facade as if you've already made it, that you're accomplished, because people like to follow you on your journey.
Yes.
And people like to see you grow. And I'm sure that the listeners of this podcast has seen our growth as well. So it's just really cool. Like, you don't have to always be spotlighting people who everyone knows about. Be that person who's going to hold someone's hand and bring them on that journey and give them an opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah, fully believe in that.
Yeah, so
Cool.
powerful. So yeah, so talking about someone who's really innovative and inspiring and a powerhouse and phenomenal in her own right is Miss Solange.
Yeah, man. Talking about like following someone from their journey, like as she kind of started in music. It's been really interesting because obviously, as Beyonce's sister, Beyonce again, everyone. Do you know what? There should be a For the
If she
Creators
doesn't
drinking
get a
game.
mention, yeah.
Every time, every time we mention Beyonce, you got to take a shot. It's crazy.
We will be paralytic.
Seriously. But yeah, Solange naturally, when she came on the scene, was immediately in Beyonce's shadow. She's the
Hmm.
younger sister, and obviously everyone's going to compare her to her. And to be fair, when she came out, she was musically in the same lane. I remember she had a tune called Star, I think, which the Neptunes produced, Pharrell. And yeah, that was one of my favorite tunes back then. But she didn't sound too dissimilar to her sister. But as time has gone by, she's really come into her own, and she really like you can't say that she's a pop artist, although she's a pop icon, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the thing with Solange in like looking at her journey is I think for a time, I think especially back in the day when record labels liked to have a formula
Mm,
where if Beyonce made it, let's just repackage you as Beyonce number two, and then
exactly.
you can go out there and blow. But I think the fact that that didn't succeed was actually helpful to her career instead of hindered it, because what it did, it allowed her to express herself as Solange. And
Yeah,
they're two brilliant artists, but they're just completely different. And I feel like if she'd
completely different.
stayed in the shadow of Beyonce, she would have stifled all of this creativity that we've been exposed to. Like
I
she's
think so.
amazing. Like
She is. And
just on the
do you
next
think?
level
Yeah,
visually. Her sound is completely different. Like she's someone that cannot be contained or
no,
put into a
no.
box, and that's what's so refreshing about her. You just never know what is she gonna do next.
Yeah, like I put her in the same bracket as Frank Ocean and Childish Gambino, where
Yeah, I
you
agree.
know visually and sonically, like what you're gonna hear and see is gonna be you're gonna be enthralled because they've created a world that you've got no option but to kind of really dive into, and that's what this new album's like, and that's what her journey's kind of been like. I know she became a mother before Beyonce did, and her
Hmm.
art kind of reflected that because she she kind of moved from the pop angle and became a lot more. There was a lot more depth. Like it felt like you were learning a lot from anything that she put out, which was amazing. And it felt like she was on that wave before some of the other artists that are now fully on that wave were on, you know. And it shows. It shows in the music, in the videos, from her last album and this one as well.
Yeah, I just like her because she's such a free spirit, and
Yeah.
you just know that whatever she produces is always gonna. I think that is the definition of a true creative. I think
Mm.
as consumers, as listeners, if we don't really know what we want, and that's the key, and that's part of the problem as well. When you go back to record labels who try and put people into a box, or people who just try, oh, it's always been this way, or it's always worked that
Mhm.
way. Like, how do
Mhm.
we enter like new arenas of creativity if we don't think outside of the box? And I think people like her, even like the creatives like Kanye and everything like that, there is an element of crazy in there because you have to be crazy to think outside of the box. Because how do you
Absolutely.
define crazy?
Mhm.
Crazy is just more or less something that's unfamiliar or something that we're not used to. So
Yeah.
initially, people are going to think that's a bit weird.
Right.
But then later on, when they catch up with you, then they'll figure out like, wow, I didn't know that I needed that, but I needed that kind of thing. So I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
that's where they come in. I think Beyonce pays more. Um, with the two of them, I kind of see them in different ways in terms of
Mm.
their music. I think Beyonce is more traditional in her approach to music. So even though she's going to bring you something amazing, it's not
Yeah.
as far out there as Solange. It's still
Yeah.
familiar.
Exactly.
There's
You're
still
right.
some
Like even
familiarity to it.
yeah, even Solange's first track on this new album, um, called I think it's called I Saw Things I Imagined, and even like the to go like geeky on the musical side, even the time signature and the way that that works isn't traditional.
The
Like
what?
the time signature, so it's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically, it's coming. The words and the music are coming in at different points where it's not like you can bob your head to it. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Okay.
it's more jazzy in that sense. And because that's the first track on the album, and it's like it sets the precedent of what the album's going to be, because it's like, all right, these are my rules now. Do you know what I mean?
Welcome to
And it's
my world.
welcome
Where
to
you
my
thought you
world.
knew, but you have
Yeah,
no idea.
exactly, exactly. And even the
Yeah.
way it's very much a performance piece, because like the way she's singing in this song in particular, she changes like her voice and stuff. Not using effects, but the way she's actually singing, and it's like that really sets the tone. And then everything she did visually as well. So back in the day, talking about 20, 25 years ago, there was a website called blackplanet.com. And this
25 years
was
ago.
probably, yeah, what,
Jesus
1998, around
Christ.
them times. Um, yeah, it was one of the first like premier black culture websites. And this is like, this is when you had to dial up via AOL to get onto websites. And it was like Black Chat and Black Planet. Um, so basically, she purchased that domain, I believe, or worked with the original people. And a week before her album release, she utilized their original design, but put her own content up on there. So it was like little snippets of what you were going to hear on the album and see on the album. And that really got everyone like, whoa, this is sick, because it set the tone. Again, it set the tone for what you were going to hear and what you were going to experience. And I felt that
Yeah.
that was super creative, and like the way she actually did it, like it was literally, this is an art piece, man. It was wicked.
I think the good thing about her and Beyonce as well, it's almost like, when you compare cars, like you never see like a Rolls Royce, you never see like a Rolls Royce or a Bentley advert. You never see them. And it's the same with them. They just drop the record. Like, yeah,
True.
here.
There, yeah, yeah,
Do what you
exactly.
want with it, yeah. Cool.
Right.
And that just shows you the levels. And it's not even like from an arrogant perspective. I think that they're both very probably a bit clandestine in the sense where they don't over promote themselves. They don't feel the need to be in the public domain, like fame hungry.
Mm.
Like they get the fame because of their talent, and their
Yeah,
talent
yeah,
speaks so loud that they don't have to over promote and overshare. I think most of the people who overshare and over promote comes from maybe a sense of insecurity or sometimes a lack of talent. Because
yeah,
when you're
yeah.
them, like you just know that what you're putting out is so well produced and so well done that it will connect.
Mm,
Yeah,
definitely.
that was really dope.
Dope.
On the topic of artists, present and
Yes. Present and
past,
past.
I think there's this looming question of should we separate the art from the artist? And the reason why we wanted to discuss that is because it's impossible to avoid the news and what's been happening this week, particularly with R. Kelly and that very explosive interview with Gail
Gail King. Yeah.
King, yeah, and also the Leaving Neverland
Documentary.
documentary that was recently released about Michael Jackson
Yeah.
and the
And the
alleged pedophilia, I guess is the best way
yeah,
to
yeah.
describe it.
Grooming and
Yeah, and also throwing Bill Cosby in there as well. The reason why we wanted to discuss it is like, how far do you go with things like this in terms of like, they're all exceptionally creative people and people who have had a major impact on the culture and on creatives. So even as a creative like yourself, Ryan,
yeah,
obviously you understand like how traumatic, if these people are actually victims, the impact that it's had on their lives and things like that.
sure.
But also as a creative, as a music producer, can you like, how do you not listen to Michael Jackson?
Well,
Because there's this major
here's where I'm
cancel
thinking.
culture. Yeah,
Yeah, here's where I'm thinking. I haven't seen the documentary, and no one really knows what the truth is apart from whoever was in those rooms, right?
hmm
So at the moment, I'm standing in that no one knows the truth, and neither do I. So uh, I haven't taken a stance either way yet. I mean, I haven't watched the documentary. Um, that being said, in terms of your question about how do you not listen to the music, we've got to remember that although it's Michael Jackson the artist, he didn't produce all the music. He didn't write all the music. Like this is other people's art
good
too.
point. It's a very
Like
good point, actually.
there's
Like the
so many people.
producers and
Yeah,
all the
so many people
contributors.
that
Yeah.
yeah, all the musicians, all the songwriters, producers, mix engineers, even on the business side, like anyone that helped promote it back then. Like all of those people came together to create this piece of art, and should one person's actions take away from this collaborative piece of art? Because I think people, I mean, it happens with artists anyway. They think that it's the fully the one artist's work, and it's not most of the time. Like Prince, for example. Okay, he literally wrote, sang, played every instrument, and mixed all of his records. Like that
Prince
is all
is,
him.
yeah, Prince is like a different
Yeah,
beast.
different
Yeah.
level. But yeah, on a purely collaborative stance, like how can you cancel that? Like how cancel people's music like that? Plus the fact that it's Michael Jackson in terms of the most famous artist probably of all time that has had such a impact on culture over the last how many years? 50 years? That's like I think it's an impossible task to try and cancel and erase that culture. And this week, The Simpsons said that they're removing their episode with that Michael Jackson voiced. I think it was like episode 3 of season 3 of The Simpsons, which was in the 90s. Like, one, what use is that? Two, it's based off of a documentary, which is allegations, and as far as I can tell,
Yeah.
they didn't interview like the Jackson estate or their family or anything like that. So from the surface of it, it looks pretty one-sided.
And also
Um,
the guys who they actually interviewed when they were on trial, they actually said that Michael didn't touch them or do
that's
anything
right. Yeah,
to
that's
them at
right.
the
So
time. So how truthful is this? And also,
I
why
don't
do
know.
it after the fact? Like now that he's dead and he cannot defend himself. The thing is,
Yeah.
I can totally understand the victim's perspective, and like if they were victims, should I say? But at the same time, I think if you compare this to, say, film,
hmm
it's so easy for us to. I can go and watch a film over and over again, knowing that the actor may not be the best person in the world because you separate the actor
From what their art is.
from the art form, from
hmm
the film itself, because you know that he's telling someone else's story in that capacity, which kind of touches on the whole thing with Bill Cosby and the Cosby Show. One of the things that you can't ignore here is that this whole cancellation culture seems to affect people of color a lot more than it
Mm.
affects Caucasian artists. Just because you have people like Harvey Weinstein, for example, you don't ever hear people saying they're going to boycott his films completely.
No,
Do you know what I
no.
mean? But for some
And again,
reason,
because
when
there are
they,
so many of them, but then people
but
are
you
very
can,
easy to say that they're going to not listen to Michael Jackson, which is embedded in culture, like fully off of
and R. Kelly,
allegations.
like I am a woman, so there's no way for me to say, oh, you know, what he did allegedly was right or anything like that. But I think we get to this point now where everything is policed and everyone wants to have a say and everyone wants to like cancel this and cancel that. I
Yeah.
just don't think it's a reflection on you if you like good music. And I know what the person did, but it's like, where do we draw the line? Because these are
And also,
things
is it
that are out in.
effective? Like, is that the best method? of like protesting. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but if,
On
obviously
one
that's
hand, I
what
can
people are
see where they're
choosing to
coming
do.
from. So someone like, say, R. Kelly, you know, if
Mm,
people are streaming his music, then obviously he'll be remunerated for that, right? Because we're
yeah,
streaming his music. So in a sense, if he's guilty of all the things that he's been doing, we may potentially be contributing to him harming someone else. But the thing with that is like if we were really to uncover half of the things that are going on that we don't actually know about, we'll probably not
right.
buy anything, eat anywhere, wear any clothes.
Yeah, where
It's
does it
almost
stop?
like
Where exactly? Where
that
does it
when does
stop?
it stop?
We need that. If you're going to do that, that same energy needs to be applied everywhere. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Basically.
like, yeah, it's just crazy. It's just
I think
crazy.
it's just one of those things that's very subjective. I
Yeah,
don't think
it
there'll
is.
be a right or wrong answer. Like
No,
if
no.
it works for you, then that's fine. But I think what's key here is that in the current climate, people like to push their values and their beliefs onto other people. Yes, I
Yeah,
understand where you're coming from and your argument is valid, but the argument on the other side is also valid. It's like agree to disagree on some of these
honestly, yeah.
points. Like just because someone listens to music from a particular artist is not a reflection of their views. It's like no one would want to see harm being brought to anybody else
No, no.
ever. But you can still appreciate a good piece of music. Because I have to admit, like when after these R. Kelly allegations, um, honestly, when I listened back to some of the Aaliyah tracks, it creeped me out a little bit
Yeah, yeah.
because you can
When you hear the
really
context,
hear
when you know the context,
age
yeah.
ain't nothing but a number. Like, hold on, dude. Like, I'm
Yeah,
starting to
exactly.
listen to this song a little bit different now. You know, there's some songs, admittedly, that I don't like to listen to, but I wouldn't discard his whole catalogue because the thing
Mm.
about music is so linked to some of our memories and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yep.
can't discredit my memories
No, no.
because of
The thing
someone's
is, like,
actions.
put differently. Let's say you're walking around a museum and there's tons of art hung up on a wall. Hung? I don't know if that's right. Hanged up on a wall. I don't know.
Displayed.
Displayed on the walls, darling.
Yes.
We don't know the real life story behind those artists. We just know that this was done by Da Vinci, Michelangelo, whoever. Um, but it's highly unlikely that a story is going to surface about them doing something that we don't agree with. Or what we're going to do? Cancel? If there's a journal entry that comes out now from back then, like what? We're going to take down all their art off the wall. It's not the art's fault. Do you know what I mean? And although the art came from the artist, you know, being a creative is not 100% of who you are. Just like being, for example, sexual is not 100% of who you are. These are different, almost features of a person. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
And
it's
also think as well when you
difficult.
have people sometimes we get distracted by the wrong things. It's like these people, they have an issue, and we have to figure out like how do we get to the core of these issues as a society rather than just pointing fingers. Because most people who molest have been molested,
Hmm.
and I'm not justifying what they've done,
No, of
but there's
course not.
something about a society where these things continue to happen. It's like when do we take ownership for the role that we play in these things?
Mm.
Because I've even been watching Jan Van Zandt and the constant theme, like the recurring theme. I don't know if it's that prevalent over here, but it's child molestation.
Yeah.
So it's just something that has happened to a lot of people,
Mm.
but no one's addressing the root cause of it, and it's just something that keeps spiraling and spiraling. So rather than always focus on let's get rid of his music and things like that, like
Let's
so
focus on
as
the
a
root cause.
psychologist sat down with this man, or do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
people around him, because one of the things I find with some of these musicians and things like that, if he's guilty, he's had a lot of enablers, and I'm talking with regards to R. Kelly. And a lot of
Right.
people who come out now and start saying things about the music and he shouldn't have done this and he shouldn't have done that. these people have a lot of enablers.
Mm,
So
mm.
again, yeah, yeah.
And are
But
they
anyway,
complicit? But that's another podcast.
yeah, that's a whole nother podcast.
But yeah, man. Like
Yeah.
I think, like you said, the answer is subjective, and it's do what works for you. I think.
So on a lighter note,
On a lighter note, yeah.
moving away from that, but still really sticking to music and the culture, is on International Women's Day, which was on the 8th of March,
Big up
Kimora
all
Lee
the women.
Simmons. Yup. Kimora Lee Simmons announces the return of Baby Fat.
I think
Now,
that's brilliant.
for all of you youngers out there who don't have a clue what Baby Fat is, Baby Fat was basically the sister brand of Fat Farm, which was owned by Kimora's ex-husband Russell Simmons back in the day, and they were really like the pioneers of urban fashion. Like they kind of
Yeah,
paved the
yeah,
way for brands like Rockaware and things like that. Like
yeah.
before
Because
Rockaware and that,
Fubu as well.
and hip hop artists and that really embracing fashion and making that a part of hip hop culture. There was
Mm.
Fat Farm, so it's really inspiring that she's bringing that back. But my question is, now for us and our generation, it's very nostalgic. It's like, yeah, like Fat Farm, woo woo. But will the younger generation buy
Respond
into
to it.
it?
I think they will, but purely because of fashion trends. Like if you look at right now, it's 2019. What people are wearing in 2019 is what people were wearing in 1999.
That's true. Very true.
It's and yeah, it's literally that. And Fat Farm, Baby Farm. Oh, sorry, Baby Fat. Well,
Baby
it was
Farm.
around that time. Baby Farm.
Might as well bring on Adult Farm.
Yeah. Again, a different podcast. Yeah, like it was around that time. So I think from her point of view, she's probably looked at it like, right, everyone's wearing the same clothes we were designing. Let's just relaunch it, and people will most likely flock to it.
Yeah, I think she's also trying to. It's the reason why it was released on International Women's Day is now because Fat Farm was the Baby Fat was the female version, and she's planning on like really running the business with her daughters, Ming and Aoki. So it'll really be about female empowerment, and that's pushing the brand as well. But back in the day, I really wanted Fat Farm jeans. I really wanted their bomber jackets and things like that. So it's really cool that she's jumped on it and she's brought the company back.
Yeah, man.
And
Yeah,
we can only keep an eye out for how this is gonna go.
yeah. I think people. You know what it is as well with fashion. I think when you're young, you look at the older generation and you see what they can wear and what they can afford. And you don't necessarily have the option to go get that yourself, and you have to ask your parents or someone like that to get it for you. And then by the time you are able to, the fashion's changed. So when you get the opportunity to then buy the things that you wanted back then, I think that's how trends kind of come back and how things are cyclical. And I think the same thing happens in music.
Yeah, that's true. Literally, if they brought back exactly the same attire, like don't even change the design or anything, it will sell because again, everyone's tapping into the 90s and yeah,
For sure,
it's really,
for sure.
really, really good.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on that. But what's also cool about that is that Kimora Lee Simmons was pretty much one of the first reality TV stars. So before Kardashians and stuff, I
That's
was
true. I used to
watching
love
with my
her show.
sisters.
Actually,
Yeah.
I was a
I was
fan.
watching her show. Yeah, so this is like around America's Next Top Model times, and she had I don't even know what her show was. I don't even know what it was called. But what was interesting is that obviously their daughters were born back then, but they're little kids, and now obviously they're partnering with their mum on this. So
Yeah, they're fully
it's
grown
brilliant.
women. Yeah, literally, I literally remember watching them growing up. And Kimora's always been inspiring because she's always been that woman who was never like scared to voice her opinions or her
Yeah.
concerns, and she's like a strong black woman. So
Mm.
it's really, really powerful, and I can't wait to see what she does, because I know she doesn't. Well, she doesn't fail. So
Yeah.
if she's
No,
bringing it
exactly.
out, it's not like an afterthought. Oh, I'm just gonna bring it back out. Like this has
Yeah.
probably been in the works for a good year, 2 years before it comes out. So we'll just have to see how it goes. Yes. So moving on to the next topic.
Yeah.
On the ones and twos, we have the man like Idris Elba.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So Idris Elba. By the way, have you seen his video?
Oh,
Come on.
with Wiley
Yeah.
mostly.
I just
Yeah.
love
No, do
him,
you know what?
yeah,
I've
for
only
the
seen the
simple
clips on
fact.
Instagram. I haven't watched the full thing yet.
I love him for the simple fact that he is doing what he wants to do and
Yes.
living his best life. And he
Yes.
wanted to be a DJ and he did it. He DJ'd at the royal wedding, like, come on,
Yeah.
levels. And now he's got a new Netflix comedy.
Turn up,
Turn up,
Charlie.
Turn Up Charlie, yeah. I prefer to say Turn Up Charlie. Turn
Turn
Up.
up. Turn up, Charlie.
Turn Up Charlie. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it was interesting. So I saw the ad pop up the trailer pop up on Twitter for his show, and for me it was like raw because I'm used to seeing Idris Elba in serious roles. Like he always plays like that deeper, serious character, like Luther or whatever other characters that he's played. But I've never really seen him in a light-hearted role like this,
Yeah.
in a straight
So
out
when
and
you
out
said
comedy.
comedy at first, I was like, comedy? It's just Elba. I'm gonna watch it
Yeah,
basically because of that, because I want to see. Like, not like I'm judgmental because he's hot, so I'll just watch him for eye candy purposes alone. But I've got no shame in my game. I've had many conversations with my girlfriends about fantasizing about Idris Elba, but let's not get distracted.
again another pod. We've just invented three
So
new podcasts.
yeah, so he's the DJ or aspiring DJ in this comedy,
Yeah,
who somehow becomes a manny, aka a male nanny,
yeah.
and it's just basically around that story. I watched the
Because I
trailers
think he
for it.
lied. He told a little fib about him being a big music mogul
To his
to
parents,
his
I think.
parents.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think that's the plot, and he ends up in Ibiza and stuff in the trailer. But it looks really good, and it's good. I think we was talking about before we was recording that Netflix is enabling storytellers to take some more risks because how likely is it that we would have seen an Idris Elba comedy series, you know, with something as kind of far-fetched as him being a DJ and a nanny? Do you know what I mean? I think it's allowing people to just do
yeah.
things that are in their mind, which is amazing.
Oh, one other thing that I want to mention though, which was kind of a controversial topic this week, is Will Smith playing the role of Serena Williams' dad
Yeah,
in a new film.
yeah, I
And
saw that.
everyone's basically saying, like, oh, how is he going to play that? He's too light skinned, blah, de, blah, de, blah. What's your opinion on that?
They're actors. It's about the character for me. You know, I mean, people are saying, you know, colorism matters and stuff like that. And yeah, there are other actors that could do it, but we don't know the circumstances of how Will Smith got that role. We don't know whether Will
He's
Smith
the
was the
director.
first. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Now we know. Well, look. So here's the circumstance. So that script, that the screenplay was put up on a website called the Blacklist, I think, where independent screenwriters upload their screenplays for potential production. So this is someone that's written a story for screen and it's been picked up via that website, which is a massive deal in regardless of what happens. You know,
Yeah, so
so
the person who wrote the script was Zach Balin, and the film's going to be called King Richard.
brilliant.
Yeah, I
So
just don't know how I feel about it though, because again, I think all these things are just like there's no wrong or right answer. Like you can
yeah,
see why Will Smith would want to do it, because from the
sure.
angle of I know that he will kill it,
Hmm.
but just visually, I'm thinking like, and the other side of the story as well is because of his skin color that created a lot of barriers for him. Like people warm up more to light skinned people a little bit, but
True.
him being a dark skinned man entering into that arena of tennis, which is predominantly white male
Ah,
dominated
that's a very
sport,
good point.
him being
That's a
dark
good point.
skinned actually played a very, very big role in that, in the sense of telling his story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think from that perspective, like, even if Will Smith is the director behind it, it's like sometimes you have to be as authentic as possible for the
Mm.
story, because who's going to play Serena and Venus, like a light skinned girl? Is it going to be like Zendaya and
That's a very good
another
point.
light skinned person? It
That is
just
a
doesn't make
very, very
sense.
good
Like,
point.
who's going to play them? If their dad is light skinned, we know the dad's not light skinned, so who's going to play them? You know.
That is a very good point. I stand.
So.
My opinion is now shifted.
Yeah. So again, it's like there's always so many different ways to look at things, but
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
knock-on effect is that you kind of take away from the story by him being light skinned, because we all know that if you take it all the way back to slavery and everything, and just the way how people view things in this world,
Mm.
light-skinned people tend to have a slightly easier time than
Yeah.
someone who's dark-skinned. And just because of the type of character that their dad was, he was very forceful, and
Mm.
you know, he was not someone that took shit. And
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Interesting. It's very interesting. Yeah, you're right. That actually his skin tone would actually play a pivotal part in the actual story itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
So is that going to be a cinema release or is that a Netflix thing?
I think it's a cinema release.
That's
I
interesting.
think that will definitely be a box office hit, because so many people are interested to find out about the story.
For
But
sure.
I just don't know how believable it would be for Will Smith to. And the thing is, as well, you almost don't want it to be a mockery of the story, because
Yeah. Yeah.
it's such a powerful story in so many different ways. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
Well, I'm sure it's
We
going to be
shall
big
see.
budget and not like a Showtime life story where they get
No,
all of
no,
the
no, no, no.
details
It's
wrong.
big budget.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, I look forward to seeing how that develops for sure. But what have you
Yeah.
what have you seen recently that you liked?
So yesterday I was watching the Netflix film by Chiwetel Ejiofor, and he's the director behind this film called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. It's based on a true story that was based around a family in Malawi. So what's the name of the guy from the butler from Fresh Prince? Is actually
Jeffrey.
Chief Jeffrey, yes, Joseph Marcel is also one of the main characters in the film.
Oh, okay,
And
that's mad. I haven't actually
Ace,
seen him in anything since The Fresh Prince.
yeah, that's the thing. So then Asa Myger is another female actress who's in the film as well. But the film is based in Malawi, and it's around the story of a 13-year-old boy who was thrown out of school because his family couldn't afford to pay for his schooling. Because at the time, their village was experiencing famine and drought all at the same time, and people were like leaving the village and things like that. And he was very, very smart, so he'd always messed around with like radios and things like that, and figured out how to create electricity essentially. And then he built a windmill by sneaking into because he'd been expelled from school, so he was sneaking into the library to read the
Okay.
books about it, and then he went on to create the windmill. And then he ended up getting a scholarship. It's a true story. So now he lives in America, where he got a scholarship at one of the top universities there, etc. But it was just such a touching story, because you don't realize how much you have until you watch these stories sometimes, but also how much you can do with so little. Like, they were literally going to the junkyards and things like that, and things that we think are rubbish and things that we throw out and discard is what literally saved the village. So that was really powerful for me.
Yeah, really good perspective.
Yeah, and it was
And that
only
links
released
into-
recently as well on Netflix, so definitely
Yeah.
check it out, guys. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind.
The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, and we'll stick up the link in the show notes. Also, have you noticed, just from a marketing perspective, how Netflix markets their shows now? Because they know that, if it's a series, this whole series is going to be put up. What I'm noticing is that they advertise like so close to the release date, and like they don't have like a long lead up. So, for example, if something's coming out end of April, we won't know about it until like a few days before. I found that really interesting. They must have done their research and known that works.
I think it's just based on the type of people that we are now. Like, we're fast consumers, so we're impatient as well. So if you tell me about it, like, I don't need to hear about it 2 months from now. Tell me when I can watch it. And because the type of platform that it is like, you just want to, like, if you're telling me about it now and I'll go on Netflix and I can't find it, then I'm like, mate, like, where is it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because my friend Tony actually told me about this film a couple of weeks ago when he went to the launch of it, like the launch party.
Yeah.
So I was looking out for it, but I'd never even seen it advertised on Netflix until I switched to telly on yesterday. So I agree with what you're saying, but I think it's really that culture of, mate, like, why are you advertising it? This isn't cinema, so if it's not going to be at Netflix, I don't really need to hear about it.
Makes
sense. I just
want
to watch it now.
That definitely makes sense.
So what about you?
So I went to see Captain Marvel, which is Marvel's newest addition to the whole Marvel universe, and it links in with the Avengers, and it's pretty integral to the story of Avengers, the last one, Endgame, and the new one that's coming out in April. So yeah, went in there with open eyes to see what that was like. But to be honest, I felt it was a bit of a missed opportunity. Big budget and stuff, but I don't know, I didn't really gravitate to any of the characters, and it felt a bit childish in that sense. Like, I think kids would like it, but I didn't. It was cool, but it didn't blow me away in that sense. And it's mad because I think because shows we see and movies we see on Netflix and Amazon Prime, etc. now are so good. If I'm going to the cinema, it needs to be another level. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think I'll go in there with that bias. Like, yeah, I could have just watched this on Netflix. Do you know what I'm saying? So, yeah,
that's the thing. It's like, if it's going to be at the cinema, mate, it's got to be a big deal, because I could have just stayed at home and watched this in my house. So, like, if you're bringing me out of my house, this has to be fantastic. And charge it
more as well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, yeah. I mean, everyone check it out. See what your opinion was. That was just my opinion. But, yeah, that's how I felt.
For sure.
That's how I felt.
It's one of those things. It's like, as a consumer, we've got so much choice. Like, we're spoilt. Yeah. Like, streaming has just killed it's killed and enhanced industries.
Yeah, it's changed.
You know what I mean? Because at the same time, it's like, before, you'd have to wait for something to come on DVD. Just one of them things that we're just spoiled in every sense of the word. So,
sport for choice.
We're just spoiled for choice. And on that note, even though you may be spoiled for choice because there's podcasts popping up left, right, and centre, please do remember to subscribe,
review,
tell a friend,
share.
I
think reviews and shares. If you can share this with someone who you think may enjoy the show, and drop us a little review, that is the best way to support this show and support us going forward. We've got some big plans that we want to execute on. And the bigger the audience gets, the more realistic those plans will become. So, yeah, if you can, that would be awesome.
That will be fantastico. But yes, guys, thank you very much for your ears again this week. Tune in next week, Monday.
Another great guest.
We'll have another great guest for you.
Yeah.
Take care, guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.